Thank you for joining us for our Get to Know session. This time it's Get to Know DEI. So really appreciate, we've had multiple sessions, really appreciate everyone that's had a chance to sit in on them, maybe watch recordings, what have you, to just kind of learn about different resources across our campuses, different departments, and the roles they play in helping us, our OU community, and our overall well-being, and really how we can all just help us be successful and help each other. So today, like I said, we have a Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and we have Adisha Wagmarie here. And so Adisha, really appreciate your time and joining us today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm going to just do a quick overview, and please let me know what questions you have thereafter. So we are the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I go by Adisha Wagmarie. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Outreach and Engagement for the division. And through our office, we have so our office is like kind of an umbrella because we're a division. And so our office works divisionally, but then we also do things separate and just with Norman campus. Since recent changes have happened, now we also work across Tulsa campus, HSC campus. So we kind of have stuff going on all over. And we do have a director over at Tulsa. Her name is Shauna Watkins. And then we also do have other team members placed in HSC and then also here across Norman who also serve HSC down Tulsa. So that's just an overview of who we are. As far as our work, we do quite a lot of different things. And so I'm just going to bring us into a couple of slides. Here we go. Okay. So one of the things in our work, when we do workshops, so anything that we do, whether we do programming or anything like that, we want to use this, and we found that this is a good tool to share out to faculty, to share out to staff who are doing anything with engaging students or engaging dialogue in general, is using this framework called the Braving Framework. It was created by Dr. Brene Brown, and she came up with this acronym to define trust. And in order for us to create a sense of belonging and cultivate a community of care across campus, we have to have trust. And so how we do that is by utilizing this amazing framework. And I will be sharing this with you also. You do have the breakdown, and there is some notes there that I put in on this particular slide. So I'll be sharing that with you all. But if we just go through a couple of them, so accountability, for example, you own your mistakes, apologize, and make amends. The vault, you don't share information or experiences that are not yours to share. I need to know that my confidence are kept and that you don't share with me other people's confidences. And then the last one is non-judgment. I can ask for what I need, you can ask for what you need, and we can talk about how we feel without judgment. So we feel like this framework in general works really well for when we're doing any work when it comes to DEI. We do have our land acknowledgement. You can find this on a lot of different spaces throughout our web pages and our social media, things like that. This was created by a working group, which included tribal folks or folks from tribal nations, people who had interests with tribes, and then also people here working at the university. And by putting this together, it's really just acknowledging that we understand where we are and that we understand and also support and recognize, acknowledge these folks and their sovereign rights. There are 39 tribal nations, so it's important to know who those folks are. And part of our role as DEI is to ensure people get to the resources as needed. And so the Native American Studies Center, or Native American Studies location is upstairs in Copeland Hall. So we are based in Copeland Hall, room 130. They're upstairs on the second floor. And if you walk down their aisle, you'll see all the different flags from different tribes. And it's really cool to try and get more information about knowing who these tribes are, what they stand for, their colors, their affiliations, and their stories. By understanding that, we're also understanding where we are and how we can respect this land the way they want it to be respected and cherished. So, always important to have those. So then I want to talk about what we do here on the university level. So we have belonging, we have politics, we have culture and climate, and we have the universal design. So generally, when you talk about belonging, it's everyone is seen, heard, valued, and respected. You meet students and peers where they are, respect free speech and expression. And then we talk about politics. Politics really is the is a part that gets us a little bit, puts us in a position where students feel like we're not doing enough, staff feel like we're not doing enough, faculty feel like we're not doing enough. And then we have the other side of that, which is a board of regents and the higher leadership team who feel like we are doing too much, right? And so to balance that scale is to do as much as we can across campus to ensure that we are promoting two things. One, promoting sense of belonging for everyone. And the second is promoting that we are interested in everyone's interests. We want everyone to feel like they have a space to express themselves respectfully, and also that they have a space that makes sense for them and their experience here at OU. And so politics is, as we know, we can't dictate that, but however it comes our way, we do our best to work through that. And so when those questions arise, it tends to be like, DEI, you need to take the lead on this. But actually, that comes from a lot of different spaces, and we kind of follow the lead from those spaces. So wherever that's coming from, which is typically either the president's office or the board of regents giving us some guidance on what we need to say, or our legal team providing guidance on what we need to do about set issues, then that's how we go about them. And that can go into when we talk about CRT, which is critical race theory, and some other things. And those have been addressed. So to look for more information on that, we do have some resources that we have provided by both our legal counsel and by some support groups in the university. We do have those available. And if you want to reach out to me, I can get those to you so you can have that. But I do know that that was circulated among some deans. And then we talk about the culture and climate. So generally, as we know, we're heading into election year. I think we all just need to know that there is space for everyone to belong, and that everyone's thoughts and beliefs are valued, and that we can't all think the same at one given time. So working with that is a little bit difficult at times, but also it's important for us to do that and to encourage dialogue. And then we talk about universal design. This is something that the university is trying to get better at. We are trying to get better at as DEI, and with our partners, ADRC, are also trying to get better at. And the more we are able to develop those tools for us to use as a whole university, the better it will be. And so doing simple things like including that in our programming, like including that in syllabi or anything like that, we're trying to make it easier and streamline the process so everyone's able to work with universal design. So those are just some generals. So when people hear DEI, this is what they see, the top of the iceberg. But below that are all of these things going on. And so I think this image is really powerful in that it explains who DEI actually is and what we do. There's so much that goes on about how we think about the work we do, the workshops we do, the events we put on, all of those items. There's so many different groups that we're trying to make sure get what they need, also get some spotlight into different spaces and things like that. So I think that when people see this idea of the top of the iceberg, they're not really understanding all the nuances of what the work is. And this is what it is. It includes all of those qualities below. And so here's just a snapshot of current climate impacting OU. And things to understand here is really just like how it affects OU is important, but how it affects Norman and the greater Oklahoma City campus and all of that, we can have little impact on that. Like we can say and we can be a part of things, but we can't really impact that as much as we would like to or want to. So with that being said, I think Dr. H likes to touch on these in general and know that these are here and we understand that they are here. And we are getting constant questions about these current issues. But as far as what can DEI do, what can we do? Well, we always want to ensure that people know their rights across campus. And that's one of the events we're hosting later on the year is like knowing your rights and what you can and cannot do. And then knowing where you stand on certain issues is important, but also understanding that there are people who may have different thinking to you and that needs to be respected as well. So that comes when we speak about freedom of speech, which is later in October. And so these ones, I'm not going to go too much in detail because I don't have a lot of time to do all of the detail stuff. This is just a snapshot of what these ones are kind of on our radar that we are talking through with different groups across campus. And if you need any further information on any of these, you can reach out to me and I can provide that to you. Okay, I'm gonna skip over that one. This is a self-reflection. When we talk about DEI work across campus, the first thing we do is anyone asks us for help, the first thing we do is ask, where are you at? Where are you and your folks and your team at? We can't come in and kind of give you a whole, like a quick solution. But what we can do is meet you where you're at. So tell us where you're at. What do these terms mean to you? What do you understand by this? And what are people's experiences like? As by us understanding that, we're able to then provide a more effective workshop. So if you're ever looking for something like this is how we would approach you. Is we'd say, this is a self-reflection. Could you do this with yourself and your team? Or we'll give you a team reflection that will look similar to this. And so can you all do that together? And that way we can provide you a more productive workshop series or something like that. So our series is something that we offer monthly, but we do have these that are done in certain cases that if people are like, hey, your workshop is not accounting for our whole entire team, can you do a separate one for us? We are able to do that, within reason. And so this is how we would go about doing that. So this is just something to keep on the mind, that this is how we initiate workshops. And then, who are we and what do we serve? These institutional definitions are important. For the university to move forward, we have to understand what diversity, equity, inclusion mean, and what does it mean at OU specifically. And so we have these, and these are the definitions that we have put together with these specific terms. With that being said, we also have our pillars, which are advocacy, education, and civil dialogue. So we have those, and those kind of help us to navigate all of this, the institutional definitions, as well as the folks that we need to serve. So because we serve faculty, students, and staff, it is hard for us to have a single event that makes sense for everyone. So we try to break those up. We try to have these large scale events, and then we do smaller things where we're just reaching out to staff, we're just reaching out to students, or we're just reaching out to faculty. And sometimes we mix the two. So we might do a faculty and staff series, and we might do a student-led series or something like that. And so that's to make sure that we are touching on everybody, and that those terms make sense for everyone. An integral part of what we do is understanding identities, and also recognizing that because so many identities exist across campus, we need to recognize the best way to work with these folks. So here's just a brief overview of what identities are and how there's your identity as well as social identities. And those are the two here displayed in the slide. And whilst we understand identities, we want to also understand culture. What is culture? How it impacts our day-to-day life, and what our cultural currency is, and the power and inequity that intersect with culture. So if we have students who are coming from abroad, the first thing is that they're not going to feel like they are part of this culture. They already know that, but then it's also going to be very visual to them when they're present at anything. For example, if we're using colloquial terms like at a football game where we all raise our finger, what does that mean? I mean, not everyone's going to know that from day one. So it's learned behaviors. That's cultural currency, right? That's within OU. But then America in general is knowing colloquial terms, and how we say things like y'all, for example, or fixing. I like to use that one because a lot of people are there's an actual definition, and then there's a definition. There's another definition, which is local dialect definition. So knowing those things is cultural currency and sharing that. And so when somebody new is joining your team, the very first thing to do is to be here are all the things. If you're not from OU, if you're not from around Norman, or if you are from OU and you are from around Norman, here are some things that we know that are going on that we want to share with you, and so that you also understand what we mean when we say these things. And bringing people in on the jokes, on the office humor, and things like that. That's allowing folks belonging, a sense of belonging, giving them a sense of belonging, but also encompassing a sense of we want you to be here, and we hired you so that you can be a part of this awesome team. And so there's that. But when we talk with students, it's the same with senior students. When we have workshops with senior students, one of the things we say is that, just because freshmen are here, you must remember you were a freshman once. And so what is that information that you would like to have had when you were at that time? That's what we want you to share with those folks, and be consistent in that. And mentor someone. It's important, just because you're an undergraduate student who's a senior does not mean you cannot mentor someone. You can go ahead, give them some life lessons or anything like that. So we want to encourage that. So those are just simple things that we touch on, is identity and culture. You're not playing this video. I apologize, but when my team put together a very thorough presentation for you all, which I was very happy about, but it's also, I don't think they recognize 30 minutes goes very quickly. So I'm just going to skip over a couple of this. Okay, So when we talk about one of the major issues that gets us into trouble across campus, and when I say that, I mean all of us, is bias, because everyone has bias. So to understand your bias is the first point of self-reflection. And that's how we get into good DEI work, is by understanding who we are, how we think, what we know, what we don't know about ourselves, and continuing to question those things, right? Why do I believe this? Why do I believe that if I walk under a ladder, that's bad luck for the rest of the day? Why do I believe that? So questioning those things are important, and also understanding who you are, right? So what biases do you have, and how do you recognize them? What do you do to correct something that might be harmful to someone? And so we have something called the implicit association test that Harvard University released. It's a really great test. It goes really deep into what different biases people could hold. And so when you take the implicit association test, you will then know, where you stand with all this stuff and where your biases are. And it's important to know that. It's also important to do it from a year-to-year basis, because if you consider yourself as someone who wants to learn and want to continue to learn, then that's something that you want to do, is learn about yourself as well. And as you progress through a space that you're getting more comfortable with, your biases will change, they will shift. And so it's good to do a test of this from year to year. And so understanding the explicit versus implicit bias, I think here is just basically understanding that there are ones that are expressed directly, and then there's indirect. And the one that gets us the most trouble is the indirect, because explicit bias is there, and I think most times is called out more than implicit bias is. Because we always want to feel like people are coming from a good angle, oh, but they didn't really mean bad intent by saying that. Yeah, but still question it, still be like, hey, when you said that, what did you mean exactly? Could you run me through what you meant when you said that? And understanding those things will really help with creating this community where we are able to question, not judge, and also allow someone the space and time to reflect on what they've said, and also then correct it if they need to. And if they choose not to, that's fine. And then we also have to get into this just generally as a community. One of the things we talk about a lot in our workshop is, if you go and say sorry to someone who you've harmed, you have to recognize that sorry may or may not be accepted, and that it's not up to you anymore. Like, you've done your bit there. It's up to them to work on themselves, their healing, and all those things. If they do not want a relationship with you moving forward, that is okay. And so that's something that's been very difficult when we've been having conversations with folks across campus about this particular thing. So last thing I'm going to share with you. Password this. Sorry, as you can see, very detailed. Let's get to this last part right here. So this last part is cultural humility. This is something that we kind of want to push really throughout the campus with our programming, with our events, and also with our workshops, is the ability to maintain an interpersonal stance that is other-orientated or open to other in relation to aspects of cultural identity that are most important to the person. And so it looks like this, like fixing power imbalances, commitment to self-evaluation and self-critique, and developing partnerships with people and groups who advocate for others. So a good test of this is to just look at a simple circle. All right, if we have a simple circle and we think of the 5 people that are the closest to us, that we would share the deepest of secrets with, who are those 5 people, and what do we have in common with those 5 people? And if it seems like you have a lot in common with those 5 people when it comes to identity, background, religious background, similar preferences in food, similar preferences in culture and things like that, then we want to ask ourselves, how do we increase our circle of trust? How do we make that circle of trust bigger so that we're encompassing different thoughts into our day-to-day lives? And it doesn't mean you should take people out of your circle. It just means, how do we trust people throughout campus? If I'm walking around, how do I start building a relationship of trust? Is it by questioning? Is it by, hey, do you want a coffee with me? Hey, would you like to go through this with me? And then starting that relationship and then building it from there and bringing those people into your circle of trust. Because it's important. The more you trust people, the more you're willing to work with them, the more we can resolve conflict. But without that, we're going to be in a position or a place where we're going to constantly be coming to places and being like, okay, so I guess this is where we have to start at this point, as where the relations exist, and then we have to work through cultural like navigation and all these other things to break into the conflict and eventually get the conflict resolved. But sometimes that might mean that teams might break up and things like that. So like I said, the core of DI work is with oneself and recognizing where you are and who you are and what work you're willing to put in. And the more you put in, I think the more you'll see the fruits of that work coming out, or the fruits of that labor coming out. In that you'll have less issues arise, you'll have less things coming across your table, or even if you come in and see us about any issue, we'll be able to help you navigate that. And so these are just key practices for cultural humility, for folks to just keep track and know what it is. And then I'm just going to quickly do an overview of some of the offices. So this is the TRIO Center that is part of our division. And there are actually 11 programs under TRIO, even though it's called TRIO, and technically it should be 3, there's 11. And Rosario, who's the executive director, Rosario Riley, has joked with me one time. She's like, I don't know, I didn't make this name, but statewide, like United States wide, it's known as the TRIO program. So under the TRIO program, you have different things. And for us, these are our things. We have the TRIO Center, Project Threshold, Upward Bound, and the McNair Scholars. And so last year, we couldn't say we had the McNair Scholars, and this year they just got their grant back. So we're very excited for them. And so please, if you know undergraduate students that are going to pursue a PhD, send them to the TRIO Center so that they can get the information and resources they need. And then Upward Bound is actually not something that works directly with our students on campus, but works with our prospective students. So that's a really interesting program, and they do a lot of stuff over the summer. So if you're looking for opportunities to volunteer or help out the summer for Upward Bound, that's where they need the most help. Reach out to Rosario Riley or myself, and we can get you in touch. And with the center, other things they offer is they have a conference center for students, they have a food pantry for students on site, and they also have a little lounge for folks to hang out in. And they also have Roku and Netflix and some other things. So, so this is just another breakdown of what I was kind of talking about. And then we have the ADRC. So the Accessibilities and Disabilities Resource Center is also a divisional partner of ours. And with them, there's a lot of things that I think a lot of people are like very, hey, if I have this, I go here. Hey, if I have this, I go here. And sometimes with the Accessibilities and Disabilities Resource Center, folks are not sure if whether they go here or they go somewhere else. I would say if folks are not sure, just go ahead and fill out the form anyway. So if you go to the ADRC website, or students are not sure, or faculty or staff are not sure about student issues, you go to the ADRC website. There's a link there that allows you to fill out information about student or questions you have or anything like that. So encourage students to fill that out, and then if you need assistance with students, you can go ahead and fill that out for them, or with the questions you have as well. And the ADRC will get back to you. They're very quick about getting back to folks, and they have a great communication team that works really well in getting people the stuff that they need. And ADRC also does presentations, and they also do workshops. Their workshops are also part of our monthly series that we offer for workshops with DEI foundations, accessibilities 101, which comes from the ADRC. And then we have cultural competency as well as advocacy in action. And then we're partnering with the GAC to do our LGBTQIA ally series. So that's offered monthly. So I would say that that's something. Now, if folks are looking for assistance with accessibility and disability resources when you are faculty or staff, it does not go through Accessibilities and Disabilities Resource Center. It goes through HR, through Vanessa Locke, I believe is her correct name. Yes. So if you are needing connection today, I can make that connection for you, but that's how that works. And anything that you're not sure of, I would also shoot her an email and be like, hey, I'm not sure about this, but can I actually get an accommodation for this? And she can let you know. And she's very helpful. She's helped me out before. So I think I'm gonna skip. There's gonna be a lot of these slides I'm gonna skip through. I'm sorry. Yeah. And we get to this point here where it's a report. And this is the last thing that we do as our office. I've told you about our programs, things like that, and I'll run you over our programs in a second again. But one of the things we have is this report and incident tool. So if you go to our webpage, there's going to be a report and incident button that you may click. It will take you to a Qualtrics form. You then fill out the Qualtrics form. And basically what we're looking for is what happened, what did you see happen, or were you a part of this thing happening, and who was involved. And you want to put as many people in there as were around that you know of that made direct contact with the situation. And then also you want to put as much information and detail as much as you can in there. If you're not sure if you should report an incident, report an incident. That's what we say always. Like if you're not sure, just do it. And that way we'll decide whether it needs to go further or not, or whether we can resolve it a different way. And so once you report it, we go through a resolution process. And what happens is after you make that report, 2 days later, you will get a response back that lets you know that we've received it and this is what we are going to do moving forward. But you won't get full details. We'll just say that it will be going this way, or this way, or this way. And so we'll give you different trees. And if you are needed for more information, they'll reach out to you. If nothing more is needed from you, you won't be reached out to until the case is closed. When the case is closed, you will get information about that. As far as if you saw something happen to someone, and then you reported it, you personally won't get it, but the person who was involved in the incident is going to get something that's going to say this case was now resolved. So just to note, that's how the process works. It works with the direct parties involved and not the folks that maybe were on the outside of the incident that was occurring. Okay, and then these are just some handy things to know, and this is for Norman specific campus, but handy things to note is our bias reporting hotline, which I just explained, which is our tool plus the hotline. We then have the University Counseling Center, the GEC, OU Advocates, the emergency line. Our ombudsperson is very helpful for especially faculty and staff. If there's something that's going on, say with a supervisor or a supervisor above that, or multiple supervisors and folks who don't feel comfortable talking about that, the ombudsperson is very helpful, and we spoke with them. We've had great communication with them. They're wonderful. So please reach out if you need to. And we have our EO office, food pantry, student league council. You don't need to take the survey. I'm sorry. That was a lot. You did not need to take the survey, but this is who we are. This is our handle for socials. Our office, like I said, is in Copeland Hall, room 130, and that's our webpage. This week, we have Belonging Week going on, and so that's just going to touch base on our program real quick. Part of Belonging Week is to offer a free meal to students, faculty, and staff, which we did yesterday. We had 9 restaurants out there. It was wonderful. So look forward to it next year. We can only host it once a year because it's very expensive. And then tonight we have a movie in the park where they're going to be watching Dungeons and Dragons, and everyone's going to be getting an individual headset. So that's how they're going to be listening to the film through a headset, but you can also navigate the volume as to how loud you want it on your end. And we also have it available in different languages because we have multiple channels with the headsets. So very excited about that. Tomorrow, Trio will be doing just a day where they're talking about who they are and what resources they offer students. So if you want to go check that out, you can. And tonight's the ADRC's event where they're also talking about disability in film. And we're really excited about the discussion that's going to come out of that. So programming in general, though, we do have Free Speech Week, and we have a couple other things like First Gen Day, which we're looking for partners. So if you want a partner, please reach out. And then we also have our International Persons with Disabilities Day, which we're looking for partners too as well. So if you want to reach out about that, that'd be great. And with that being said, I think I brought it to an end. So thank you, Lindsay. I think I'm good. Any questions?
Definitely a lot of great information, and yes, I will be sure to share the slides, the great thorough information that maybe we didn't get to cover in a follow-up email with those slides. But also, like you said, you covered quite a bit of programming that you guys do. If someone wanted to, keep up with, programming that you have going on or what you have coming up next, what is the best way for someone, whether it's faculty, staff, students, to keep up with different ways to engage with DEI?
Oh, great question. So we have our newsletter, which if you go onto our webpage, you can sign up for the newsletter. I think the first pop-up will come up and it will say, like, would you sign up for the newsletter? Then you can, opt in or opt out, your choice. The other is to follow us on socials. It's very up to date. Our folks are posting on there almost every day, so that would be a great place. And then finally, our webpage, we try to put as much possible we can on a calendar, so you can follow that. Another cool thing that we do have that I didn't mention was our cultural events calendar, and that is on our webpage. So if you go to our webpage and then go to engage, you'll find all the different cultural heritage months and everything that's listed on there. We can't possibly put out a note for everything every day, but we did capture it as much as possible in there. And it is a working document. So if you see something that's missing, let us know and we'll add it.
Wonderful. And you also mentioned, I think, some possible volunteer opportunities. So again, if someone had interest in volunteering with different events or opportunities going forward, what would be the best way for them to really get engaged with any volunteer opportunities?
Yeah, for sure. And we have our doves, which are called Diversity Outreach Volunteers. We love our cool name, doves. So yes, that's the same on our webpage. At the very bottom of our homepage, you will find doves. Sign up, and you can sign up there. It's called Diversity Outreach Volunteers. You can sign up there, and we will reach out to you when we need help for our events.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again for your time today, Adisha, and wonderful, great information. And so hopefully there's a few more events for Belonging Week that you guys are having this week. So encourage you all to take a moment to participate and engage in those opportunities. And also just the range of other programming available throughout the year with DEI. And so again, really appreciate your time and have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You too.